I'll introduce. I feel proud of him. Let's give a big round of applause to Raghav. Those who don't know, I'll introduce him in a different way. There was one person called Srinivas Bhatt. He and myself were roommates in 1997. So we were living in the east side. He's from Karnataka, Brahmin family, very orthodox, simple heart, and he was a roommate. I'm proud of him. So we were sharing, and he used to work in Yale, and I used to work in Nationwide. And then we were there, and then he was doing his Gayatri, he was doing his morning prayers. He used to tell me, why are you wasting your time? Like, I was watching movies here and there, and then he gave me Gayatri mantra. Don't waste your time, Gayatri mantra. Like, everybody knows mantra. So, years passed, few months passed, I did my project to Portland, Oregon. And then he still lived here. When I moved to Portland, Oregon, I got introduced to ISKCON. Then after that, I moved back to Columbus in 6 months. I went there only, got introduced to ISKCON. I came back, and we started, Maharaj started Bhakti programs in 1999. So we started Bhakti programs going on. I think there was a festival. I went to New Vrindavan. You all went to New Vrindavan. So there we were all standing. That time I got married. Me and my wife, Bhakti, standing in the light of Prasad. And then I saw Srinivas Prabhupada. And this time he is with his wife. Oh, where are you? In long time. There was no cell phones, so we didn't have any connection. So I know he was in Columbus, but he knows that I was in Portland, even though I knew that. So anyway, long story short, then we introduced ourselves. We got married, I got married. Where are you living? I'm in Columbus. You're in Columbus. Where are you? We exchanged phone numbers, home phone numbers, and then we came to Columbus. And then 2 weeks later, he called me. My mother is visiting from India, and she's feeling bored. You said you were starting a program. Can I drop her? Wonderful, right? Please. So we have programs, and then he used to come, drop his mother, and leave. And then he used to come after 9 o'clock and pick her. That went on for a few weeks. One particular day, I think his wife is sick or something like that. He dropped mother, he changed his mind. I'll also stay back. So he stayed back and never left. And he's the first devotee in our program. First devotee in that batch. And eventually he got so serious, but he got shifted to Michigan. Then he got there, introduced to Raghav Maharaj and his wife both initiated a wonderful, simple devotee, and then they made so many devotees. And they have a son. His name is Raghav. And then he graduated. Guess what? He got a job in Columbus. And guess what? He joined my company. Guess what? He's in the same project. Guess what? We sit in the same floor. What is the probability? Always, what is the probability? 2 generations of devotees. I'm so proud of him. We talk every day. He's very intellectual, very simple heart, amazing. And then we're going to hear he really inspired from 2 personalities. He always share. One is Bhakti Maharaj, other is Gaur Govind Maharaj. Right hand, left hand, you can decide which is right and which is left. So let's give a big round of applause to Raghav Prabhu. Here in inspiration. And this is also the first time he's speaking in Sunday Feast. So he can do much better than that. Let's give a big round of applause. Listen to the class. Sorry.
We'll start with some Jayarada Madhava prayers. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodhanandhana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. So I would like to begin with just this verse. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's teaching is going to be summarized in one sentence, which is, it's not just about distributing the books, it's not just about reading the books, it's not just about chanting the holy name, but it is about living the books. And I find myself sorely lacking in that regard. So I would like to invoke this verse written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, where he's praying for the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy one who's fallen can describe the pastimes of the Lord and also his devotees. And also, I would like for all of us to say the pranam mantra of Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, to invoke his blessings as we move into this presentation. For those who don't know, a pranam mantra is what happens when there's an exalted spiritual person and people are inspired by him. So then, in order to offer respect to that person, they create a pranam mantra in Sanskrit as an offering to this person, and say it out of respect. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Tirtha Swamin iti namane Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shrita Tatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha iti namane. I'm not going to do a full breakdown of the verse, but essentially he's under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and is the embodiment of the mercy, the Shakti of Shri Gaura Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sitting on the altar there. So with all of your blessings, and the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, Gaur Nitai, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and Radha Vrindavan Nattabara, I will begin talking about the life of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He was born as John Favors into a God-fearing family in Cleveland, Ohio, so not too far from here. He was born in the ghettos in a very poor part of Cleveland. But despite being in such a poor condition, his mother was extremely charitable. They only had, one or two shirts from, for each person in the family, and some of them were torn and whatnot. But if one of John's friends didn't have a shirt, then she would immediately give one of their shirts to him. And she didn't even though they lived in basically the ghetto, she would refuse to lock the door. As a child, John would stutter a lot. He wasn't really able to speak very well, except when he would go on the podium as a child evangelist, and he would speak about God. Then his stutter would just disappear completely. And his reflection on that is that Krishna was, showing him from a young age that he wants him to speak about God. He was really intelligent as a child, so much so that he became a tutor for other students. And one girl from a rich part of town who went to the best high school in Cleveland, she saw his intelligence and said that she shouldn't stay in this kind of environment. She shouldn't learn here. And she talked to her principal, her parents, and they got him transferred to their school. And in that school, he became the #1 student in the best high school in Cleveland. And when he graduated high school, his professor told him, I can get you into whatever college you want. Because at this time, America was just beginning to open up their colleges to African Americans. And so he chose Princeton because Princeton gave him a full ride, full tuition, room, board, everything. Plus, they paid him to go see his trips. They paid him for his flight tickets to go see his mom, which is pretty amazing. I've not met another person who's ever had any kind of offer like that from any college, much less one of the best in the world. And he started experimenting with doing many of the things that college students do and trying to enjoy life. But deep down inside, he really wanted to help people. He saw the struggles of his own race under the hold of racism, and so he began to get involved with the civil rights movement. And he didn't just get involved. He became, a very. He had communication with and spoke with leaders of the civil rights movement, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who had this to say about him. That young man, Bhakti Tirtha Swami, is really headed somewhere. He's at least 10 years ahead of his time. He spoke like a true leader. That's the MLK. We get a day off from work because of him and the contributions that he made to American history and to society today. And he was very impressed with John. And as he did this for a couple of years in college, he saw that it was helping people. But still, despite this, he saw that people were still suffering, that there was still more work to be done beyond just the civil rights movement. And so he began to dabble in spirituality and psychology to understand more deeply what is happening. So he actually ended up writing his final thesis as in yoga and Western psychology, or does mankind have a future? And he also then, also ended up getting a job in New Jersey as the special assistant to Stanley Van Ness, who is the public defender for the state of New Jersey. And around that time, he met a yogi. His name at that time was Norman. And he taught him things like yoga, meditation, mind reading, and hypnosis. But he would always tell him that I'm not your guru. And so he was still looking around for somebody to guide him. He ended up taking initiation from a Mayavadi guru. And he came back to this yogi and told him, this is the guy I took initiation from. The yogi just laughed at him and told him that he's just a Mayavadi. And he said, I can tell you who the Jagat Guru is. He said, do you really want to know who the Jagat Guru is? And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, at that time John, he said, yeah. And then he said, do you really want to know who the Jagat Guru is? Jagat Guru just means the Guru of the universe, meaning the person who's come to help the entire universe. And he asked twice now. John was getting a little nervous, but he was asking multiple times because he knew that his life would completely change, that John's life would completely change. So he asked one more time, do you really want to know who the Jagat Guru is? And then he said, yes. And he said, it's Srila Prabhupada of the Hare Krishna movement. And John's response was, those guys with bed sheets on their legs and war paint on their heads. He's like, you mean they have something higher than I do? And he was convinced that somehow Norman was lying to him. And so he said, I'll check it out, and then I'll see the discrepancies and wrap up that chapter of my life and move on. So he started associating with the devotees in the Brooklyn temple. And as he did that, he noticed that there was different types of devotees, but the ones who were taking to the process seriously were special and were different. And he began, to listen to Prabhupada's lectures. He began to associate with the devotees. He describes that he felt, actually the first time he heard Prabhupada's voice from a tape, he immediately felt arrested, that he knew what he was previously doing could no longer continue as soon as he heard that. And eventually he came to the point where he wanted to completely join and participate as part of this. So he left his job. At that time, devotees would do that. He left his job, left his girlfriend. He joined the ashram, the temple in New York City. And he started doing preaching to African Americans in a particular section of New York City. And when Prabhupada came, he had noticed some things, how some devotees would discriminate against him in some ways for various reasons. And so he offered a complaint to Srila Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, there is prejudice in your movement. And this was Prabhupada's response. And do we have any youth or kids in this room? Hare Priya, you want to read that?
Someone is thinking you're the body. That is their nonsense. But if you are disturbed because they see you in the way, then you are also nonsense.
So he was explaining to him that yes, there are people who are thinking, one of the core concepts of the Krishna consciousness movement is that we are not this body, we are the soul. And many people, despite reading that, still act on the platform of seeing people as just the body. But he said, if you are disturbed by that, if that bothers you, you're offended by that, then you are also on the same bodily platform. Because these things exist it's the material world. And our job is to imbibe the opposite of that. But at the same time, we can't be offended when that is aimed towards us, because it's going to be there. And because of his erudition, his skill, they send him to the Gurukul in Dallas to assist Satsvarup Maharaj, who was leading that project there. And he was doing that for some time, and then he got involved with what was called the library party. So back then, at the movement, it was quite common that there would be buses, these parties of devotees who would come, who would ride the bus and go from town to town, and then distribute books, do Nama Sankirtan, which is chanting the holy name together and singing that on the streets, and they would go like this in a bus. But this library party did that also, but it was a little special. Instead of going from town to town and distributing books, they would go from library to library and then college to college and sell standing orders of Prabhupada's books to professors and other people in the academic arena. A standing order means that you're selling the order of all of Prabhupada's books that he's written so far, plus everything that he has yet to write, with the intention that it'll be shipped immediately once it's published. Like, that's incredible. That's amazing. It's so hard to sell, one Science of Self-Realization on the street here, but he was going, and it's not just average people, but people who are already proud of their own knowledge and their own erudition, and was convincing them that they need these books. And it started in America. And not just America, it went from America to Europe and then to past the Iron Curtain in the Soviet Union. We'll get to that in a second. I just want to share one story. Actually, we don't have time for that, so I'm going to skip that. Okay. So, he went, during this time, we had a morning walk with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada then just looked at him, or pointed at him, and quoted a verse, the 2.61, and now I meant to write it down, but now I'm forgetting the actual verse in translation, but the idea of it is one should one who gives up attachment and aversion to the material realm very quickly receives the mercy of Krishna. And he took that to his heart, and immediately from that point onwards, he started chanting 40-something rounds in the morning. At like 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. he'd get up and he would just chant his rounds at that time, and he would eat once a day, and it wasn't like a big meal, it was just like a few fruits or nuts and things like that. And then he started traveling around the world, and it wasn't just America, they went to Europe, and then they went behind the Iron Curtain. The Soviet Union at that time was very much locked down. It was very difficult to get inside, and even if you got inside, they wouldn't let you talk about religion so much. And he was a black man in Russia, basically, where everyone is like really white, and he couldn't speak their language. And somehow he was selling standing orders of Prabhupada's books to these professors in Russia. Not only that, he had to escape from the KGB multiple times. The KGB is the equivalent of like the CIA or the FBI at that time. And he had to escape from them. There's a story where he was in one university in Russia, and he was walking down the hall, and he noticed somebody was following him. So he starts running. And the guy starts running behind him. And then he takes a turn, the guy takes a turn, he takes another turn, the guy takes another turn. And he takes one more quick turn, and there's a door. He immediately enters the door and gets inside. And when he's in there, as he's coming in, he saw the name of the professor on the door. Like, who thinks of that when you're in a life and death situation, and you're running, and he sees the professor's name on the door. He walks in, and then he tells the professor, "Oh yeah, it's 2:00 right now. We have an appointment. I have an appointment. Your professor, so and so. I have an appointment with you." And the professor's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, I talked to your secretary on the phone. I came from like 4 hours away, just to talk to you," or something along those lines. And it's amazing. And there's so many stories I want to tell, but we don't have time, so I'm going to skip some of those. But Prabhupada was incredibly pleased with the service. These are some of the things Prabhupada had to say about him. At that time, his name was Ganashyam. He loved that name. It means the dark cloud, the servant of the dark cloud. Dark cloud is in reference to the complexion of Krishna. And he said, somebody, we don't got any more youth besides Hari Priya. You want to read? Want to read the first one? No? Okay. Well, I'll read it then. Do you want to read it? Okay.
These are wonderful things. People are staring at him as if something is wrong, but buying both standing orders in the end. In spite of all obstacles, Srimad Bhagavatam is going strong. How much he is subjected to. He has a strange body. They do not speak his language. It is a tough subject. Still, Bhagavatam is going through. Srila Prabhupada.
Somebody want to read the next one?
The report on Yugoslavia has given Srila Prabhupada the greatest enthusiasm, encouragement and ecstasy. Srila Prabhupada has had me read the first part of your report to no less than important gentlemen at different times who have come to visit His Divine Grace in the last week. In every case, they are all wonderstruck at your exploits in penetrating the Iron Curtain.
That's just amazing. Tamal Krishna Maharaj at that time was Prabhupada's secretary. And he was being the go-between of correspondence between Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. So you won't find some of these things in Vedabase because they're not directly from Srila Prabhupada, they're from Tamal Krishna Maharaj, but Prabhupada conveyed the message through Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Here's one more. This one's my favorite one. Does anybody want to read this one?
I can. My books are the real communism. I am working for the whole human society. My philosophy is to unite the human society on the basis of Krishna consciousness, and that is actually happening all over the world. Why a black man is working for me and a white man? How much potency our Ganashyam has. Practically, he's preaching in the jungle. They do not even know his language, and still persons are giving standing orders. He is so empowered. I never expected standing orders from these communist countries. Now I can understand that they have lost all sense. But still there is hope. This Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada, June 1977.
Yeah. So at this time, Prabhupada was very sick. And he wanted to come to Gita Nagari to establish Varnashram Dharma, which we're not going to get into what that is right now, but he wanted to establish that. So on the way, he came from India, he stopped in the UK. And all the devotees who were in the Europe area, they came to see him, including Ganesham Prabhu, and or Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj or John, whatever you want call him. He came to London, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, as soon as he saw him, he was like, yes, you got to come inside, you got to meet Prabhupada. He's going to be so happy to see you. And he came in, and he said, and Prabhupada, he has him sit, not usually people sit in front. There's like a table and Prabhupada's sitting and people sit in front of him. But he asks Maharaj to come sit next to him, to his side. Maharaj comes, he sits down, and he pats Maharaj on the head. And then, he starts crying. And he hugs Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, and he says, your life is perfect. I mean, who gets that kind of reciprocation from Srila Prabhupada? Is very, very few people. And then there's another nice story after that, the day after that, Prabhupada, so Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he wants Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj to read, because he would send reports every other week, every week to Prabhupada, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj would read those reports to Prabhupada. He wanted Maharaj to experience what it was like to be in the room when he was reading that report. So he came, and Ganesham Prabhu started reading the report for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada wasn't responding at all. He was just completely, blank, and Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj started getting the idea that maybe he was not saying the right things, or something was wrong. And everything is, Krishna is the doer. Krishna is the one who's doing everything. And actually, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he recalls, he says, it's not the hug that's my favorite moment with Prabhupada. It's after the hug, the day after, when I was chastised by Prabhupada. Because that you can chastise just anyone, because not every, but if you love somebody, and that person loves you, then you're willing to chastise and take chastisement. You're willing to take that chastisement in order, because it's coming from a place of love. And since they loved each other, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj is willing to take the chastisement from Srila Prabhupada. Not just willing, he was so happy to receive it. And now we're gonna then Prabhupada went back to India. He was too sick to go to Gita Nagari, which is in America here in Pennsylvania. But he went back to India, and then he left this world, and ISKCON went through a lot of chaos during that time. Maharaj happened to be in India for some time, and he had this desire. He ended up creating, within his heart, this desire to see Jagannath emerged. And the Jagannath temple in Puri in Puri, which is a place in India, they don't allow people who aren't Indian-bodied into the temple. And he's not Indian-bodied. So he's like, how can I get in to see Jagannath? And he thought about it. If he wore the traditional, ISKCON type clothing, they'd know immediately he was an ISKCON devotee, get him out of here. So he decided to dress up like a businessman, and then wore a turban around his head to cover his scalp. And he also went under the cover of dark, and he enters huge crowds trying to get in this temple all the time. and he just entered the crowd, and he avoided the guards, and the crowd just kind of pushed him into the temple. And he got to see Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, and he was standing there in the middle of the crowd. He was having a wonderful experience just seeing Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra in Puri. They're the original forms, so they're in Puri. And then the Panda, the priest on the altar, points at him and is like, come over here. And he's a little he doesn't want to get close, because then they might find out. It's going to become a big problem, And if the guards find out, they're going to come after him with these heavy sticks. And if they beat him, he's going to have some broken bones. Might even not be able to walk again. So he didn't want to get involved in that way. So he kind of just slinks into the crowd and off to the back corner, and then the priest. And then he's there and he continues watching some of the ceremonies on the altar, and then somehow the priest sees him again, and he points at him and tells him, come over here. And so he comes. He's thinking, if I try to slip away, that's going to be extremely suspicious. So maybe I'll take a chance. I'll come close and we'll try to get through somehow or the other. So he comes close to them. He comes close. It's not just him. The priest calls a few other people, and they take them to the inner sanctum, where they get to directly. It's a ceremony to circumambulate to the deities of the Lord of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, and they gave him that opportunity. And when he was alone with the priest, when the priest then told him, I know who you are. I know who you are. He said, I do not agree with the current rules that people of non-Indian descent are not allowed in the temple. If I were to go right now and if I were to speak, they wouldn't let me in the temple. But I know who you are. I don't agree with the rules. And he said, I very much appreciate what you are all doing in the world. So I want to give this opportunity to you. And so he's there, and he's just ecstatic being there with Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, and he's praying for the future of ISKCON. The pure Bhakti can world. And then he starts having this his inner calling for sannyas. Devotees began to also persuade him in that direction. Jayadvaita Maharaj told him, you're meant to travel and preach, so take sannyas. Sannyas is the final order of monkhood. It's essentially a lifetime vows to remain a monk for life and travel around the world and everyone in whatever way is necessary. And so Jayadvaita Maharaj told him that Harisori Prabhu, who was very close to Prabhupada, told him, you give up this false humility and just take sannyas. and so then he ended up taking sannyas here in New Vrindavan, which is just 2 hours from here. And a small story, at that time, it was the way the names would be given. So when there's initiation, you get given a name. Like John became Ganashyam Das. Then at the time of sannyas, one receives another name. But usually the way it would work is you would just take the Das, take it out, and replace it with Swami or Goswami. That's how it was done during Prabhupada's time. So Ganashyam Das would have become Ganashyam Swami. He took sannyas from Kirtanananda Maharaj, who decided to change his name, and he gave him the name Bhakti Tirtha Swami. So Ganashyam Prabhu, when he heard that, right, he was sitting in front, and during the ceremony, he's like, okay, now your name is Bhakti Tirtha Swami. And he was like, what? Because he loved the name of Ganashyam, because in so many ways, it was Ganashyam, like the blackish cloud. It's like it's a wonderful name of Krishna. And it's also, like his his own body, but it's a wonderful. He really loved that name because Prabhupada gave it to him. That's why he loved that name, and now the name is being changed. And for a moment, Radhanath Maharaj, who was there, who was his best friend, and he described that for a few moments he was just like shocked, but then immediately after that he broke out into a big smile. Because he realized that yes, the point of sannyas is to give up everything for the service of Krishna. So that means I must give up my name as well. Even though I'm cherished it deeply, then so be it. And then, until now, he wasn't really famous for his kirtans. He didn't really do so many kirtans. Later on, he became really famous for his kirtans. And this was the start. That during the sannyas ceremony, he got up and he started singing an amazing kirtan. Everyone sing. It was ecstatic. And then, he started jumping higher and higher. And at one point he jumped, and he didn't know how to, because sannyasis tie their cloths a bit differently. He didn't know how to tie it properly. So it slipped and fell in the middle while he was jumping up. As he had to, he'd come down, he had to rush outside to fix it up and come back in, and then continued the kirtan. And he began to do some preaching in America first. He opened up some restaurants in the DC area, which was so good. Actually, it's amazing that they were giving out so much prasadam at such a low cost that the FBI decided to check it out because they thought there's no way that somebody could run a restaurant with such low prices. They thought it must be a front for some drug operation or something, especially because many of the other drug lords in that area were moving away. And so they thought, these must be some powerful people, and they're chasing away all the competition. And even the casinos and the prostitutes wouldn't come in towards that area where the restaurant was. And so the FBI got involved, and this agent would come every single day. He wouldn't tell, nobody knew he was an FBI agent, but he would come and he would observe, and he would eat the prasadam. After 1 year, he came up to the devotees and he told them, he showed them his badge. He said, yes, I'm an FBI agent. I came because of because of XYZ reasons. But now I can understand that it's simply because of your own deep commitment to your own spiritual practice that you're able to do something like this. That all these negative influences are moving away. And around that time, he also created the urban committee for urban spiritual development. We're not going to talk about that. We don't have time, but it was a pretty interesting thing as well. And then he had this dream where Srila Prabhupada was sitting there in a room with him, and they're doing something, and then there was this knocking on the door, and Prabhupada said, go open the door. Some more knocking, and Prabhupada said, go open the door. So he gets up, he goes to the door, he opens it, and all these African people come in. And he realizes, oh, Prabhupada wants me to go to Africa. And in Africa at that time, Brahmananda Prabhu, who was a disciple of Prabhupada, was doing some preaching in Nigeria, in Lagos, Nigeria. And he was using, already, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj had begun an initiative called Books for Africa, where they would collect money and use that to send books about spiritual knowledge to the African continent and other third world countries. And he was doing some preaching there in Nigeria, in Lagos, whereby Chanika Pandit Prabhu, who is on the altar right now, joined right there in Lagos. I served as Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's secretary for many years. I tried to find a picture of him to put on the slideshow, but I couldn't. So, and then,
We can just watch him live.
and he began to, so he immediately the next day after the dream, he got up and he told two people in the class, he was like, all right, book your tickets to Africa, because we're going to Africa. And first he sent a Kendra Prabhu to help Brahmananda Prabhu, and they secured through the help of an Indian gentleman in Africa, they secured like a building that used to be some kind of hospital, clinic kind of situation. And then people started joining, and then Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj came himself, and people got more and more inspired. The community was just growing and growing and growing. And then from Lagos, Nigeria, they went to Ghana, from Ghana to Zimbabwe, and then to all over places in West Africa especially, but even all over Africa, like South Africa and Kenya and whatnot. And we have to understand the situation in Africa at this time, especially in West Africa, was very, very precarious. There was constantly changes in governments overthrowing each other. And what they would do is, if you had a government in place, they'd be doing their thing. And then, another group would, wage war and conquer over that government. And they would kill everyone related to that government. So if you wanted to get anything done, you would need to be close to the government. Otherwise, you couldn't get land, you couldn't do anything. But if you got too close to the government, when the new government took over, you'd be killed with the old government. So it was a crazy situation. But he dealt with it in so many different places. And today, Africa has over 20 temples, thousands of devotees. And it's amazing. And very wonderful devotees also. Here, I don't have time to read through all of this, but the basic gist is that there were some amazing accomplishments. If you look at 1985, the first Rath Yatra in Kenya, they managed to get 80,000 people to join that festival. 100,000 people to join the ISKCON temple opening in South Africa during the height of the detention due to the apartheid. And in 1987, they helped with the floods. And in 1989, again, Rath Yatra again in South Africa, over 30,000. And one of the best accomplishments in this sense in Africa was that they learned how to do everything themselves, how to manufacture everything, to create everything themselves without the need to rely on either having to go to India or on factories in such an unstable environment. They just learned how to make the mridangas, make the harmoniums, the kartals, everything, the deities themselves. Here's some more pictures from Africa. And these are in the villages. He really enjoyed preaching in the villages, where he also faced black magic and all kinds of weird stuff, really interesting, weird things in Africa. There's one time there was a king, and in his kingdom, every night you'd find bodies of women with their organs gone, because people were harvesting them to do black magic. And the king was in such a position, he was looks like evil is stronger than good. And he came, and when he was talking to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he said that, and Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he gave him the Nrsimha prayers. I think it might have been the Nrsimha Kavacha. And he gave him Srila Prabhupada's books, told him to read them, and he said, if you do this, you'll have no fear. Here's some more pictures in Africa. He also created a school with a government-approved class in Krishna consciousness, which means that you can't go to the next grade unless you pass your Krishna consciousness class. And he was also crowned. You can see here he's wearing all this traditional African attire. He was crowned the High Chief of the Opke, which is an incredible feat, because Opke is one of the largest, is I think the largest tribe in Nigeria. And the High Chief is the second highest position. It's the position right next to the king, is the High Chief. So many people are vying for that position. And the king, he started visiting the temple. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj ensured that the devotees took care of him nicely. And the king started chanting some japa. And he felt so transformed by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, by the process of Krishna consciousness, that he decided to make Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj the High Chief for his whole tribe. And people tried to assassinate Maharaj over that position because such a wanted position. And the king even there's all the stuff you have to do to get to that position. He waived all of that for Maharaj. He just came one day and they did the ceremony. And in fact, on the way there, he almost got killed because somebody tried to assassinate him. So anyway, but it's amazing, and Maharaj accepted that because of the powerful implications for further being able to give this transformational knowledge to other people in Africa and even around the world, just by being able to tell people that this person is now, I'm a high chief from Africa. There was also an African. Actually, we don't have time for that, so I'm gonna skip that. But he also did lots of preaching to world leaders. He had really good relationships with people like Nelson Mandela, even Muhammad Ali, who said, by the way, I don't really have many true friends besides you, because he said when I was a kid, I wanted a great big nice fancy car, big house, all these things. Now I have all of that. I have multiple cars. I have a huge house. But it's only 5 o'clock in the morning, and I already have a headache because there's so many things, so many problems going on. In that position, you can't even trust the people working at your house because they might, try to steal, whatever they want to steal. And everyone comes to you because they want your money or they want your fame. They don't actually care about you, in general. But he saw how Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj really actually cared about him. And there's many, many other world leaders. Again, I can't tell all the stories, not enough time, but it was amazing. So meanwhile, he saw that in America, he'd kind of left it alone for a bit, but now he felt that it was time to reignite his sharing of this Krishna consciousness in America. And he created this institute for applied spiritual technology. At that time in America, we didn't have so many professionals joining the movement. And certainly not so many professionals who were either African Americans or white Americans, and etc., non-Indians. But he saw an opportunity. Today in ISKCON, it's very popular to take some kind of subject like meditation or like depression, etc. These kind of subjects that people are interested, that people want to know more about. Talk about that and then explain the Krishna conscious solution to that. He's the one who pioneered that through the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology, by showing that this technology, what we're getting in these books, can be applied to helping us move beyond our problems. And he did that, and he had amazing success. Giriraj Maharaj describes that he by nature, he's very, very conservative, because he was spent a lot of time in India, and so things that are different, they're new, he's a little skeptical. But he checked it out, and he saw the caliber of individuals that were there, and he said he didn't see that anywhere else except for Shaubati. And seeing that, he could say, Prabhupada had said that one can determine the quality of the tree by seeing the fruit. And so by seeing this fruit, you could see that, yes, this was a powerful initiative. He also appeared on many, many television programs, radio shows. I'm sure he would have appeared on podcasts and stuff if he was around today. But he was very much into finding a way to get in front of people and help them see how their life can be changed, improved, by applying the technologies that are there in our books. I remember in one lecture he describes that there are some of these, like the person who authored like the 7 Habits, I think. Stephen Covey, yes. He took those principles from the Mormon teachings. So he said, we have, within our tradition, we have some of the deepest spiritual purports that are available in this world. So all we have to do is take that and show people how to apply it. And if all these different people, not just Stephen Covey, he mentioned a few other people, all these people are taking from their own traditions, and they're presenting it in a certain way. They're presenting it to help people in different ways. And so he said, we can do the same thing because it's all there in our literature as well. you had these 4 rules for community, which he used to develop IFAST, Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology, as well as the Gita Nagari Farm, which we're not going to talk about much about that today, but that could be a whole lecture on itself. I want somebody to read this. Ujjwal Nitai, can you read the first one?
Treat everyone you encounter as if the success or failure of your spiritual life depends on the quality of your interactions with them.
Deepti Mani, you want to read the second one?
Think of a person you love the most and aspire to treat everyone with the same quality of love.
Does anyone want to read the third one?
View all conflicts as your own fault first.
Fourth one?
Realize that people in your present environment might very well be the people with whom you will live out your life and who are likely to be with you at the time of your death.
So very high principles, very difficult in one sense to follow, but we try. And that's the point. You try, you put your foot forward, and as we'll get empowerment. He said, one of the things he said is that if you don't, when you feel unqualified, but you forward anyway, that is the moment when empowerment occurs. And he had books, amazing books, started with Beggar, the first Beggar, which is, all of these Beggar books are different prayers with certain themes. So like the first one was just generic, and then meditation prayers for the Supreme Lord, and then the second one was, I forget what the second one was, but the third one was about the false ego. The fourth one he wrote before he was going to die, called Die Before Dying. And then he had the spiritual warrior books, which are all about using technology, spiritual technology, to help with dealing with the issues that many spiritualists and even or non-spiritualists deal with across the world. And he wrote that in a way for anybody to read, not just people within the Hare Krishna movement. Reflections was on different books within our tradition that exist, like Shikshashtika, Madhurya Kadamani, Harinam Chintamani, Ishopanishad, and there's a couple more. But he wrote books explaining what's written in those books. And then he had 2 books on leadership. He's also a world preacher, GBC for so many places in the world, Africa, Detroit. That's the middle picture is Detroit, by the way. That's exactly where we still give classes today. The exact same table, the exact same deities behind him, the same gate. But so he was in Detroit, and he was in Africa, Gita Nagari, many different places, and he began to see the needs. We don't have much time, so he began to see the needs for the devotee community. He saw that people were losing. People didn't have so much faith due to their own lack of experience in Krishna consciousness and their lack or lack of being able applying the technology that's available within our books. And I would go more into that, but we don't have so much time. And so because of this, he wrote a final offering. He wrote an offering in 2004 to Srila Prabhupada. He said, please allow me to take on the sufferings of the devotees and of the people in general, but allow me to take on the sins and the sufferings so that they can progress forward without obstruction. It's a very deep, powerful prayer. And immediately after that, he got 4th stage melanoma. He was mostly healthy his whole life. And he got 4th stage melanoma cancer right after that. And he had like I forget, the highest type of diabetes and a couple other things. It was, they found that out after he was trying to pay obeisances to Prabhupada in Detroit. And he just like fell. So they had to take him to the hospital, and then they had to amputate his leg. So he didn't have a leg. And then the cancer kept eating away at his body. It ate away eventually at his spine. And he actually lost function in being able to move his right arm because it ate away at that motor capacity. And but you can see that despite that, he completely gave himself to the devotees. That here in the second picture, like in the middle picture, he's just singing his heart out. The middle and the third picture. The middle and the right picture. He's singing his heart out. For Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Sham, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham. And he's just completely crying for Krishna, crying to enter Vrindavan Dham. And he was there. People were listening to his lectures. They were coming into his lecture, and they were walking out with tears. Like Radharani Maharaj describes how that the first time, as soon as he got cancer, Radharani Maharaj was there. There's a whole story. I'm not going to tell it, but he was there, and he saw there were so many people who came to see him. He said every single person was walking out of that room with tears falling from their eyes. And he just continued to give himself. And at the end, he said, now, when he had 3 weeks left to live, he said, now I have to enter Nirjan Bhajan, which means he's going to close his doors. He's not going to see anybody, because he now needs to cut off all ties to the material world. So even this identity as Bhakti Tirtha Swami, despite being used in service to Krishna, is still also tied to the material world. So even that identity has to be let go completely. And he has to completely enter the identity of one in the spiritual world. And then 3 weeks later, as he did that, he left to the spiritual world. And that's the life of Bhakti Tirtha Swami. Sorry, it kind of took a little bit longer than I would have liked. But I also feel like this is a drop in the ocean of the nectar of the pastimes, the teachings of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Radharani Maharaj gave a 5.5-hour lecture in Chaupati once, and a Sunday feast, and I heard no one got up. I don't know if that's true, but I heard no one got up. It's true, okay. From that lecture. And he continues giving like 2-hour lectures, 3-hour about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And they're all amazing, all like unique in many ways. And they're just deep, more and more, realizations of the wonder and beauty and glory of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. With that, I'll end. We got like a few more minutes, like 5 minutes for questions.
You want to say ISKCON edition Radha?
Oh yeah, sure, I'll say that. Okay. So there was, during this time when he was alone with Radharani Maharaj, when he entered Nirjan Bhajan, when he closed his doors, only person who was allowed in was Radharani Maharaj and then his caretakers who were helping, him deal with his body. So Radharani Maharaj and him would discuss every single day. They would start talking about a personality named Madhavendra Puri, and from there they would talk about so many other subjects. But one day, he wasn't able to concentrate. He couldn't discuss because the pain, he was trembling, his body was trembling because he was in so much pain. So he couldn't concentrate. So Radharani Maharaj just started chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then he was continuing to tremble, but in his eyes, tears started falling down his eyes, and he began to smile. Radharani Maharaj describes, we've all seen his smile, but this smile, I've never seen him smile like this. He's smiling end to end, ear to ear. He smiled and he said, I would never trade this moment, this place for anything. For I am tasting Krishna's names like I have never tasted before. Please, I request all of your blessings or prayers, because so that I can genuinely follow and imbibe, live the books of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would say, imbibe the teachings of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And thank you for listening. If anybody has any questions or any thoughts they want to share, I know Govinda Prabhu, you are a disciple of Maharaj. If you have anything you want to share, Kamagiri Mataji has had much.
She was with him.
Oh wow, okay. So you know much more. Yeah.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namani Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sitatmani Sri Guru Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namani. Thank you very much, Prabhu. A lot can be said about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, but I believe we don't have much time. But he has a lot of pastimes in West Africa, particularly Ghana. I knew him since 1986 1985, 1986. That was the first time I met him. And I was 3 months, and he came with Tirtha Maharaj to Ghana. And so a lot of devotees, we went to airport to welcome him. And at the airport, it's our tradition, when he came out, they came out from the airport, the devotees offered obeisances. And everybody around there at the airport also offered obeisances. They didn't know what was going on, but they all offered obeisances. And so we took him to the temple. And whoever knew Bhakti Maharaj, he has a lot of Shakti, a lot of energy. It's like a magnet. Magnet always attract metals. So Bhakti Maharaj was like that. He has a lot of spiritual potency that if you go close to him, you can feel the vibration around him. And so when he entered the temple room, that was around 7:30, and he started his kirtan. And the whole temple hall was packed with devotees and non-devotees. Everybody around the vicinity there want to enter. That was his power, his energy. And he chanted and danced and danced and danced. And to my surprise, we had a Haranam van. He climbed the van and he was dancing on top of the van. So, that was the first time I met him, and he was also, mystically very, very powerful. Yeah. Each time I went to him, to his ashram, actually that day I met him, that same night he called for me. He sent one devotee called Ramanuja to come and call me for massage. So that was, I didn't know how to massage, so Ram has to show me how to do it. And after he has shown me for about 2 minutes, he left me. So I was alone with him in his net. Africa, we build up a mosquito net around his bed so that no mosquito will, get him. So I massaged him. And so the day after, I decided, I was a Sankirtan devotee, and I was in different yatra coming to the headquarters. So I was going to ask him, I'm going for book distribution, but which temple should I distribute the book for? To my temple or the headquarters? And after I paid obeisances, straight he told me, go and distribute the books for Accra temple. I said, wow, how did he know that? And in the Bhagavatam class, I was always, in meditation, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And then he could tell that I was chanting the mantra going on in my mind repeatedly. And in Bhagavatam class, he speaks out also about that. There was once he was having Bhagavatam class, and there was one yogi who has come pretending to be a devotee. But he has just come to challenge him. So in his Bhagavatam class, this yogi, every devotee, we were all there in a temple room, and this yogi was upstairs doing his tantras. So at a point, Bhakti Maharaj said, he sent Srivas Prabhu then, now he's a Vanachari, to go and bring him his suitcase. So Srivas brought a suitcase, and he opened it up, brought some pictures out, and was just spread the pictures on his asana. And then still giving his Bhagavatam class. about 2 minutes, we heard a very big noise from upstairs. That yogi has fell. And he was screaming, "Leave me, I'm leaving here, I'm going." So we were all like, what is going on? And Guru Maharaj was just giving Bhagavatam class, as if nothing has happened. So after everything, Sivas had the courage to go to him upstairs and ask him, "Maharaj, I'm surprised that all this noise going on and you didn't say anything at all. This yogi has fell down and he has packed his bag and baggage, everything. He said he's leaving the temple and he's gone. But he didn't say anything." And Guru Maharaj said, "Don't leave him alone. He's a rascal." So he has a lot of pastime. Once we were traveling, when he comes to Ghana, he goes to state. So we were going from Accra to another state, and there was this devotee called Baladev. We were driving like 4 different vehicles, and Guru Maharaj was leading. And from nowhere, Baladev tried to overtake everybody and overtook Gurudev also. So Gurudev said, "We should call Baladev to stop." So Baladev stopped, and Gurudev asked him, "Are you leading us or we are leading you?" So that was a very powerful instruction that I learned that day, that a disciple, at all costs, we have to walk behind your spiritual master. Never try to lead your spiritual master. Always try to be behind him. There are many, many more things that can be said, but like I said, we don't have much time. So I'll say only one thing, and maybe I'll pass the mic. So Gurudev was also a chief, a very big chief in Nigeria. So before he was crowned, these Nigerians, the Africans, like to try their juju, their powers, to see that whether you are heavy, you will be able to occupy that seat. And so they tried him in a way of causing him accident. And he had a very brutal accident. And before the accident happened, Gurudev knew it. So the devotee who was sitting by his right side, Gurudev told him to drop out and join a different vehicle. And then one Mataji and his kid also, he told them, move from here, join other vehicle. So when the accident happened, that crash, where the vehicle crashed, was where these devotees were sitting. And brutal accident that nobody will ever think that a human being can come out from that accident. But Gurudev came out with no problem. So he was not discouraged. And before then also, he asked the devotees he chanted very, very strongly that morning, and asked devotees to chant the Lord Nishimade pranams. And so he got to a place where they were having this coronation, and everybody there was shocked that this man is still alive. In Africa, there are a lot of juju men. So as a whole, you go out there as a spiritual master, they are going to try you. And actually, there are so many, many things like that also happen in Ghana, but I will reserve it for now. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Goravani Pacharni Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paskachali Satarni Vanchikapatubhis Chakripa Sindhubhya Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavi Vinamon Maha. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. In the interest of time, I'm not going to say anything except that if you really want to hear a lot of nectarian pastimes, we should set a day and have a time where we can really get into the pastimes of Bhakti Tirtha Swami from a lot of persons who were there with him. So that would be my suggestion. And because there are so many pastimes for so many years, and some of us have so many years of pastimes, that it just wouldn't do any justice to speak for like 1 minute. So His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Actually, I will say one more thing. In Gitanagri, when Gurudev was leaving his body, I was there. And the last lecture he gave was at the back of his the institute. And he spoke many things. And there also he revealed that Krishna consciousness is not just a philosophy. Neither is it just a church. Krishna consciousness is part of life. So part of life means it's our real life. It's our real life. And like he said, in the spiritual world, we all have different relationship with Krishna, eternal relationship with Krishna. And because we are so conditioned, so we don't even know ourselves. We don't know who we really are. We don't know who he really is, and we don't know the person next to us. Who is that person? We don't know. Just like the Jarabarat,